My name is Erin Hansen, and I taught at Carpinteria High School for 8 years. And when they were talking about implementing the freshman transition course for the first time in Santa Barbara, I was able to pilot the first dual enrollment course in Santa Barbara. And then from there, have been working with Amy Bryant at Carpinteria High School to implement the entire Get Focused, Stay Focused initiative. And our goal for today is to really have you leave feeling like you know what is in the modules, how to teach it, and have ideas on how to implement it. We also want to make sure that there's time for conversation, for us to kind of grapple with the ideas that are in these textbooks, so that when we go to our students and talk about high demand careers or choosing college based on your career, not just on its location, or all of those topics, that we've actually talked through those. And so we hope that you come today wanting to have conversations with those who are sitting at your table, but also in this room. Be willing to get out of your seats at some time. We're hopefully going to use some of those best practices of discussions, Socratic seminars, types like that, at certain points that we hope you can see being used in your classroom as well. So just know that we don't want to be talking at you the entire time. We want to be learning as well. And so welcome. And Amy, would you say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Amy Bryant. I'm the current freshman seminar teacher at Carpinteria High School. I've been teaching it for the last 5 years, so if you guys have any questions on the freshman career choices Get Focused portion, I can hopefully give you an answer on that. And I am the current Get Focused, Stay Focused coordinator on the campus, and I helped with Erin implement those follow-up modules, and I'm the one coordinating it with the teachers who are currently teaching it. So if you have any questions on how it's working at Carpinteria High School, we'll explain that in the slides, but also hunt myself and Erin down and ask us any question that you have.
So we have our goals, and I'll share them with you. Our goal is to give you an overview of Get Focused, Stay Focused. That's going to be brief because I think you got a really good idea of that in the general session. But what I do want to give you time to do is to apply it to your school. There were some statistics that were put up about dropout and not completing or not transferring once they get to the 2 years. So I do want to give you some time to think through that at your own site. Then we're going to do an in-depth review of the follow-up modules. And so what you should have noted in our schedule is we'll go through Module 1 and next session, then Module 2, and then Module 3. We're going to make sure that you have time to brainstorm and lesson plan, so actually flip through the materials, get some ideas. We're going to talk about strategies for securing whole school buy-in and implementation. And what I have found, and I think Amy would agree, when we do the Stay Focused trainings, is people buy into the content, and their big question is where to implement. And so we at Carpinteria High School implemented it one way, but I've also been working to gather how other schools have been implementing the follow-up modules. So that's something we're going to keep touching upon, but that tends to be the first question people want to ask, is like where and how. So we'll get there. We're going to talk about how to actually use the online 10-year plan and what that looks like once you go from the freshman course into the modules. And then we're going to be sharing the successes and pitfalls experienced at Carpinteria High School. So we just did it first. We didn't do it perfectly. And Amy and I are both teachers. We want to learn from our experience, and we want you to avoid any of the mistakes we made and implement, well. So our goal is to really be honest and talk to you about what struggles we've had, as well as the successes we found or the best practices we found. I actually wanted to, before I do this, I want to get a sense of where everyone is at. So there's certain things I may not need to cover. There's certain things I may need to, depending on where this room is. So how many of you, with a raised hand, have implemented the Career Choices course at your school? Okay. Career Choices course at your school. Okay. You're all one group, right? So I'm assuming that the three of you, when you said yes, that means your whole school. Okay. So everybody here has implemented the Career Choices course at their school. Wonderful. Except for one. Okay. So I will give... You have not. Okay. So, but do you have an understanding of the content of the curriculum the freshman year? Or do you feel like... Because I can give I'll give a little brief one. Okay. Okay. So that's helpful, because sometimes people come to a training and they don't know what the freshman class is, and it's hard to have an understanding of what the modules are. So, okay, yes?
And so we haven't implemented, we won't implement until September.
The Career Choices course. Okay, got it. Okay. So 9th grade class, and then how many of you have implemented the follow-up modules at your school? We tried. Okay, good. Good, good. So that's the way of putting it? Okay, so you can see in this room we have resident experts, right, who've experienced the implementation process. How many of you are here because you will be the teacher of the follow-up modules? Okay, about half. How many of you are a counselor and want to support the follow-up modules? Okay. And how many of you are an administrator? Okay, and who's also part of that whole support? Okay. Anybody from the community college here? Okay. Career technical, librarian. Sometimes they are the ones who help facilitate this. And so as I'm saying that, if those kind of jog ideas of how can we bring a team to help implement the modules, take some notes on that. Okay, is there anybody here that I didn't address that has a role? Okay. So I will, for the sake of just making sure we're on the same page, I'll briefly go through some of the foundational pieces, but I more want to get to the application. So what we know already, you guys saw this earlier, is the problem, at least I'll say for Carpinteria High School, is not a dropout problem for high school, for us. Our problem was that we had a high percentage, 60% of our students are going to Santa Barbara Community College. They were getting there, but they weren't completing any certificate or transferring. That was our problem. And so that was why Dr. Diane Hollums and Dr. Lauren Wintermeyer came in and said, let's implement this to solve that problem. And so what we see is more of this statistic. And so one of our main focuses was how can we reduce the need for remediation, right? And how can we make sure that students go in with an informed major and have a clear pathway? And so this was the solution to that problem. And I see, feel free to take pictures as we go. The PowerPoints are in your binders, session 1. They are a little bit out of order because as I was doing it, I wanted to tweak it based on the needs of this audience and based on what was happening in there. So I already made some changes, but you should be able to follow it between session 1 and 2. So we also know this, right? Our students have seen this graph over and over again. If they can go to college, get some post-secondary education, they are going to make more money. And typically when they see the dollar signs, that's when they see buy-in. But like the morning presentation, 100% of my students, when I ask them, or I should say 98%, when I ask how many of you want to go to college, they will say to me, all raise their hand, right? But when you actually ask them where and why, that's I don't know, right? And I will say, since implementing this program, I will have students say to me, I'm applying to these 3 schools because they have this major, which connections with this program. So I've seen the results of this program where it's no longer just college, but an informed choice in which career they want and what major they're going to need to take in order to get there. We know these statistics. Again, I said high school is not ours, but college is. This also, when 61% of students entering community college have to take a remedial course, that's our problem, right? That's something we need to work on. Only 17% of students who take remedial reading will complete a bachelor's degree. I want you to know that I was an English teacher and the avid teacher, so I also have those hats. Amy, will you share a little bit about the other hats you wear?
Yeah, I'm a social studies teacher. I currently teach modern world for 10th graders, and then I'm also I will be the sophomore avid teacher next year. I had the freshman the year before. So both Erin and myself wear the avid hat as well as a different department hat as well. And Erin was the English department chair when she was there, and I'm the current social science chair on this.
So when you're thinking about implementation, we had to work with the departments as the leaders as well. So here's where I want to go for a few minutes, and I want to give you time to think about this individually and then as your team, is when we think about this, how are we succeeding as a system? Like, how is your school addressing the need for remediation, the need for students to go in with an informed major, and how do you see your students in these statistics? Because that's why we're here, right? We know the national statistics, but what about your own site? So I wanted to give you a few minutes to talk with your tables, with your team, if you're here with a team, about what you're seeing on your school in regards to these statistics. I attended the Learning in the Brain conference in San Francisco earlier this year, and one of the things that they emphasized at that conference is if you can connect students back to a mission or a larger purpose, that their emotional well-being improves, their sense of belonging improves, their resilience improves. And so one of the goals that I think we need to have, as we're thinking about ideas about school-wide, is a way to keep students connected to that bigger purpose and that reminder. So the module is an instructional way of doing that. Some ideas that we've done is having those bands, like what is your 10-year plan? And then if somebody asks you during that day, or like what is your bigger purpose? There's what's your mission statement is actually one of the things in here. And then you flip it over onto the other side. If somebody asks you, and then the next, I see that somebody asked you, what is it? And kind of start creating a system for building conversation around that larger purpose. Now, this is something that, we all want. We all want kids to be healthier. We all want them to feel connected and sense of belonging. Well, here's one way that we have them write it down and reflect on it at least each year, right? And then perhaps throughout the day. So just kind of thinking about, and please write these ideas down. You guys will leave and forget everything we said. So as I'm talking, there's some things that are not on a PowerPoint, so please just jot down any notes. And then, again, write down any ideas you have that you would want to share out with the group, and we can do that as well with those questions later on. All right, so when we, and here's this question, it's a very leading question, but what if there was a program that reached all students designed to increase intrinsic motivation, right? If somebody asks me, what is Get Focused, Stay Focused, I say it is a comprehensive college and career guidance that provides equity and access. And I think that's more than anything else, it's that access to information that counselors or, privileged parents had access to, and if these students didn't have those gatekeepers didn't open those doors, they didn't have access to it. And this breaks down those doors and allows students to have access to the information that they really need to make choices. So SBCC designed it, and I just want you to see this kind of big picture. That it's called the Progression of Education Model. You had it in the handout that you got during first session. But the idea, and it's too small to see here, but just to kind of give you an understanding, the ideal would be having an 8th grade summer bridge program, right? Then you move into the 9th grade course, and then that course is comprehensive. It's a semester or a year long, right? And then you know that you cannot, with all of the other expectations that English and history and science and math have to do, we can't have a semester long course every year. But we still want to provide an opportunity for them to touch back on their 10-year plan, update it related to their specific needs as a 10th or 11th or 12th grader, and reflect on how they've changed and grown. So the way that is done is that comprehensive 10th grade class, or 9th grade class, and then module 1, 2, and 3 in the 10th, 11th, or 12th grades. And those units, and I'll go over this in more depth, but there's 16 lessons versus a semester. They're meant to be brief unit. Think of it as a unit. And then from there, they will go into their end of high school. They will have an informed major. They will go to either a community college or a four-year university with a clear path. Do we think they're going to change throughout that entire time, right? Yes. Are they going to grow and make different choices? And that's kind of why Carpinteria High School is like, we can't just do this 9th grade course. They're not the same person. And people would say, are you trying to get them to decide their career in 9th grade? I'm like, no, we're trying to get them to imagine their future. And it involves a career. And we want them to have informed, and I think you're going to get that. I don't know, those of you, it looks like most of you who have implemented, have you heard parents say this is too early, too soon? And one of the things I say is it's not too early, because if we do it later, we close opportunities, and we're having them imagine and dream for their future. So they go through, and then ultimately, they're looking at it. I think one of the most amazing parts of the freshman class as well as the modules is time shrinks. When they first think of 10 years, they think of that as like way down, and then they go, oh wait, I'm already a freshman, that's 4 years of college, oh, and 2 more, that's fast. And so they start to see time as more tangible than, 10 years into the future when I'm old, which really they're very young. It is aligned with the Common Core Standards, Student Success Act of 2012, CTE initiatives, SB 1070. There's a lot of funding. It seemed like we paid President Obama to make that speech, right? For us locally, there was an initiative to bring Cradle to Career and how to do support. And so what was really nice is when that initiative started, they were like, all right, high school is taken care of. We can focus more on the elementary and the 0 to 5. So this is, if you think about initiatives that are Cradle to Career, this can really be that secondary education portion. And then at Santa Barbara City College and in many community colleges, they're having Express to Success, that idea of helping students who need remediation get through remediation more quickly, and transfer programs. So this really partnered with all these kind of siloed programs and brought it together in one place. So as you see this list, this might be a little bit overwhelming, but think about all the programs that are on your campus, or that the City College is bringing to your campus, who your partners are, and how might this align with what they want to do. That make sense? So just be thinking about that as you go. So for those of you who are new, the 9th grade curriculum focuses on who am I, self-exploration. Then who am I, then what do I want, so a budget unit and lifestyle planning, and then how do I get it, it's kind of that career and college going. So that's the 9th grade course. And then our goal would be that the 10-year plan would be utilized. I think that by teachers, as you were saying earlier, that the goal would be that all teachers have a username and login, and that they are going onto the 10-year plan and accessing it in order to have effective conversations with their students. It's like what you saw in the video today. The way that we have done that is we have an advisory period, so all teachers have a username and login, and our goal is that all of the advisory teachers would have, even though this kills trees, I just feel like printing out the summary page of the student's 10-year plan and challenging teachers to have conversations with students regarding it each month and checking in with them. So then that's one way that we can make it so that all teachers have access and are talking to students about their 10-year plan.
And just from an administrative distribution standpoint, the 10-year plan allows you to batch print their summaries. So you don't have to go in and individually print each student. You can select a class and say print their 10-year plan summary page, and then you've got a whole class's worth of summary pages and you can distribute them to the teachers.
So that's from a teacher perspective, and then with the counselor perspective, we have had our counselors do a summer pull-in in groups, so like a group counseling appointment with students and parents, and they have students pull up their 10-year plan and share it with their parents. So that is one way, an idea to do it. We also want, if a student gets called into the assistant principals or the deans, that one of the first steps systematically is that they pull up the 10-year plan. They say, this is what you've articulated as your goal, as your, what you want. How are your choices affecting that? So those are just some ideas about how to make the 10-year plan school-wide. And then again, the college can use it to advise students on what classes to take and help them to figure out what their path is. Dr. Lauren Wintermeyer told me a story yesterday. She's a counselor at Ventura College. She said she had a student come in, 26 years old, sat down and was like, I need to create a course plan. She's like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this. I'm kind of interested in that. She's like, I can get you to some classes, I can get you to that, but if you are trying to figure out what you want, I need you to tell me more. I need you to have some kind of guidance, and I think that's a 26-year-old, right? And we want our students to have that.
And another piece of that story, she continued, she said, I had another student come in, and they said, on the transcript, Carpinteria High School graduate, and the first thing I said is, I know you have a 10-year plan, pull it up for me so I can see it. So the difference between the what do you want to do, what your passions are and your interests, versus I know you come from a school that does a 10-year plan, pull it up, let's use it.
Yeah. So again, I said our focus is with reducing the need for remediation. And so we have put these posters up, and they were going to try to get them printed for you all. They were not able to. But this is what we do in all of our classes, or what we have, in all of our classes, to remind students what they can take advantage of for free at their high school versus having to take remediation. This word remediation does not make sense in their head. It really doesn't. I mean, that's a teacher speak, right? So what I do is I create, as an English 12 teacher, I create a PowerPoint where I say, okay, this is how much this class cost you. If you are this many levels behind, this is how much it's going to cost you for books and hours and time. And all of a sudden, again, those dollar signs speak. They're like, oh, if I work hard in your class right now, I will do better on my entry test in order to figure out my placement for English, right, or for math. And so this has become part of our language. We had increased, like I think the highest number of students who actually took the test and were going directly in 2 years ago than we had ever had before. So we're seeing some differences being made. And this is what the back looks like. It talks about English at SBCC, the number of, for the class, the amount for the books, and then how many hours total. So even if I just read this to you, it's small, but it says total after 3 non-college level courses, 240 hours of lecture, 480 hours of homework, $1,270 for classes and books, and now you can take college transfer level math. So even if you just wrote that, right, on a PowerPoint and said, why should you care about this class? Why should you not skip math your senior year, right? Because you want to do well on your placement test so that you can save yourself time and money, you have that resource to you. You can steal this from Get Focused, Stay Focused and just say this is Santa Barbara, but it's probably very similar to your local college. So then you go to the 10th grade. The kind of overall phrase is developing attitudes and aptitudes that promote college and career readiness. So they're going to research high demand careers, determine appropriate post-secondary options. I want to say now that I will say college often. When I say college, I mean certificate, post-secondary. It's not just the 4-year degree. And I always have teachers, or I often have teachers who are in these trainings who say, you know, I'm a tradesman, I teach a CTE pathway course. You keep saying college, what about electricians who have a very successful life? This curriculum really focuses on a skill-based education plan. It's not just what classes you're going to take. And so it really validates those students who don't want to take the direct 4-year path. In the 11th grade, they're going to research STEM careers. They're going to kind of reaffirm or choose the career path that they think they want and start researching colleges that will meet those needs and prepare for college applications. And we do have them walk through the college going process because, and I'm sure many of you or most of you I hope would agree, that we have students who say, I never go to college. They get to senior year. They're like, oh wait, I want to apply. And they have the GPA for it, but they don't understand all the steps. And so we want to make sure, and this is why I say I'm going to give you, I'm not making that choice for you. And if you decide as a 15-year-old that you're not going to college, I don't believe you yet. That's the choice that you can make when you're 18. But I am going to believe that all options are available so that when you get to that senior year and you may want to do that, you can. Versus saying, oh, okay, you decided when you're 15, like, I don't want anybody to give my 15-year-old a choice about whether or not they're going to be eligible for college. That is not a choice, right? Once they graduate, it becomes their choice, right? And so I think that's one of the things I say for the 11th grade in particular with the emphasis of college applications. 12th grade is the only one that's time specific because it actually has them go through the college application kind of process, and so it has to be either in the start of the school year or some schools actually place it at the end of the junior year. So it depends on what works for you. They're going to do a post-secondary planning, scholarships, resume, cover letter, mock interview, job application. They'll write a student education plan and update a 10-year plan. As we're talking about these topics, you might be thinking, oh, we already do that, or we have this person who comes in. That's a great tie-in, right? It saves time if you're already doing that somewhere else. So again, we're going to go into much more depth into the modules, but I'm trying to give you the overview. So the stay focused part, Amy's going to talk a little bit more about the design of the modules.
Thank you. So Get Focused, Stay Focused is composed of 3 modules: the sophomore module, which is the light blue, the junior module, which is the teal, and then the senior module, which is the purple. And you guys will get these, or are they in your binders? Yes, they're in your binders and drilled so that you can flip through them. So a little bit about what each module is. So Module 1 is conducting online research for post-secondary options, so they'll take a look at all of the different options: 4-year, 2-year, apprenticeship, internship, certificate program, and then also how to afford those different types of education for their particular circumstances. So it'll have them go through a checklist of 30 different ways to reduce the cost of college or post-secondary education. They'll look at different scholarships that are available in their area and see which ones apply to the particular area that they're interested in. So if they're interested in art, or they're interested in science, or they're interested in math, knowing those scholarships ahead of time so that they can start getting those portfolio pieces together, so that they can start picking up internships that would help them get that scholarship or that grant or whatever it may be. Module 2 is completing a college comparison spreadsheet, and then they review that affordability chart again. So it's an interface within the 10-year plan that allows them to enter in all of the information on the different post-secondary options that they're interested in, all in the same place. So it's at a school, at a location, and it has them put in where it is, how much it costs for tuition and fees, what the website is, when the deadlines for the applications are, and they can print out that spreadsheet so that they have it all together in the same place when it comes time for applying for college scholarship, or not scholarships, applying for college admissions or post-secondary admissions. And then Module 3 is developing a college planning timeline and an action checklist. So once again, Erin mentioned post-secondary timeline. So what is it? What are the deadlines? When do I need to apply? When do I need to enter all of that information? When do I have to declare what scholarships and grants I received? There we go. 5 minutes. Okay. Each time a student starts a module, they start the same way, reviewing and revising their 10-year plan. So the first 2 lessons in all of the modules is taking a look at what they wrote the previous year, or the previous 2 years, or the previous 3 years, and then updating it.